Hao, hello tea friends, welcome to Teaism, a show about exploring and demystifying Chinese tea culture with all who, like me, seek the leaf. I'm your tea guy Jesse. Today's episode is the second part of my series on the 6 types of Chinese tea. Last time was red, green, and white, and if you haven't seen that episode or Teaism 101, go check it out on my YouTube. Or, don't, because we're on a giant ball spinning in the void. You gotta do what's best for you. Today we're gonna drink oolong tea, and I'm gonna drink 4 different oolongs, which will really make sense as you'll see because oolongs have way more variety than almost any other tea type. Quick recap if you're new to the channel. I lived in China for 9 years. I did Chinese comedy professionally. I drank tea as a hobby and met lots of tea farmers and small shop owners. And when COVID wrecked the world and I couldn't perform for years, I made over 1,000 tea videos to avoid going crazy, which arguably is crazier. And now I run an online shop connecting people directly to the source and make videos about tea culture for a living because the old world is dead and the best we can do is understand the shape of the chaos we have been unthinkingly flung into and protest the uncaring madness by constructing moments of peace within it, like tea time. There are 6 types of tea in the Chinese tradition: red, white, green, oolong, yellow, and dark. That's hong cha, bai cha, lü cha, oolong cha, huang cha, and hei cha. These are all leaves of the Camellia sinensis plant. The difference between all 6 types depends on how the leaves are processed after being picked. Are they roasted? Are they fermented? Are they heat fixed? And a reminder, the 6 types of Chinese tea don't include flower teas or herbal teas, just tea leaf teas. While Chinese people do drink those herbal and flower teas, the tea scene in China doesn't talk as much about them, since the learnings about how to make one leaf well don't necessarily hold over to another leaf, like, the tea leaf versus a flower. Because different leaves, like different people, respond differently when submerged in boiling water. Today, we're drinking oolong tea. Oolong is named after the pig from Dragon Ball. I'm getting word it's the other way around, I'm sorry.
Strike that. Reverse it.
Oolong in Chinese is written with the characters oolong or dark dragon. This makes it unique amongst the 6 types of tea in that it has a straight up badass name. At least 8 out of 10 badass on a scale where nobody else breaks 6. Green tea is a 1, dark tea is a 6, and Iron Goddess of Mercy is a type of oolong, and that's a 12, which I don't even know if it's fair, but I can't make a chart ranking badass tea names and not put Iron Goddess of Mercy on there. Oolong is also the only tea which isn't named for a color, and that isn't a coincidence because oolong is a bit unique as a tea type because the tea liquid can be anywhere from almost clear to almost black. Oolong teas are called ban fa jiao cha, partially fermented or partially oxidized teas. This means they're somewhere in between a green tea, which is completely unoxidized, and a red or a dark tea, which is fully oxidized. How dark a given oolong is depends on what the variety of the tea plant used is, and how long the tea is oxidized, and how long, if at all, the tea is roasted. As a result, the color system doesn't really work well for oolong. My Alishan milk oolong is super light and fragrant and closer to along the lines of a green tea, while the Da Hongpao oolong is going to be very dark and behaves much more like a red tea. So because oolongs live somewhere on this sliding scale between unoxidized and fully oxidized, I really recommend people look at each type of oolong almost as its own individual tea type. If you tried oolong before and you didn't like it, check what type it is because maybe a type closer in flavor to what you like is out there. And similarly, if you liked an oolong, don't go blindly search for oolong tea online because you might just wind up with something completely different. Oolong tea is a result of a complicated process of many steps. The leaves are first picked and then allowed to wither in the sun, which is called shaiqing. Then they're put back inside to wither more, liangqing. Then they're put inside a giant rolling barrel made of bamboo or inside a metal press, bruising the leaves and heightening the fragrance and flavor, 做青. From there, it's baked at a low heat in a low temperature oven to control the level of the oxidation in the tea, which is called honggan. Then the tea is packed into a giant bag and rolled by rolling machines, 揉捻. That actually used to be done by hand or foot, but now the machines do it faster and more evenly. And from there, it needs several rounds of roasting at a low temperature and then is ready to be packed. Each master tea processor has their own methodology of how to do these steps, how much time to take, what temperature to roast the tea at, how long to leave the tea between steps. And that, in addition to the many type of leaf varietals and different growing terroirs, make oolong a very diverse tea type. Let's start our oolong journey with this Alishan milk oolong. I knew you were like, are they actually going to drink tea in this video? I don't know how many minutes in we are, but yes, we are actually going to drink tea in this video. Alishan is a famous tea mountain in Taiwan, which reaches a height of 2,600 meters and is known for producing some of the best oolongs in the world. Cut, 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 cut. Love that sound. I steep this tea at 90 degrees Celsius or 194 Fahrenheit. I've made this tea anywhere between 80 and 100 Celsius, so there is a broad range of temperatures that could be a good fit. I'm gonna show you guys the leaves right here. There we go, they're all rolled up. We'll be talking about that more for sure. When I made oolongs in the mainland, I found that people would oftentimes use the first steep as a wash, but in Taiwan, they almost never did. And the truth is there's nothing super wrong with the wash anyway, especially if you have really good tea. The main thing that it does is it advances the tea progression to the stronger, more flavorful steeps in the middle. So today I'm gonna do a steep of about 30 seconds here. In goes the water. I love seeing the little kind of rolled up oolong balls here expand, and the smell that comes off of this stuff is so good. This is like in some ways it's the best part of the entire tea making process for me, is that first scent that you get off of the leaves once they're in there. So this is a good time to talk about whether you need a timer to help you hit steep times. I have friends in the West that come from the coffee world, and they have all sorts of cool timers. And from what I've heard, apparently it really does make a difference to hit those timings with coffee. For tea, it's much more of a mixed story. I give steeping instructions to all of my teas on, like the Taiwanese oolong box comes with a booklet. I'll show you inside our Taiwanese oolong sampler. I have this major booklet that we put together, which is a real work of graphic design. This has steeping instructions for all 4 of the teas in that sampler, and it has very specific timings on it, even down to like steep 1, steep 2, steep 3. But I would say that these are really just suggestions, and that you really should use these suggestions as a way to find your own taste. Gongfu means skill, and this type of tea is called Gongfu cha, Gongfu tea. So the skill changes with the type of vessel you use and how compressed the tea is, and even the altitude of how hot your water gets before it boils, because at higher altitude, you're gonna get a lower boiling temperature. All of these things can affect how long the steep temperature should be for any given flavor. And as a guy who's made a lot of tea, I factor in all of these things when I'm making tea for the first time, and I guess what will be good. And if it comes out good, then that's your gongfu, that's your real skill. But the times do not need to be super precise. In my opinion, a tea that's only good at 90 Celsius and not good at 93 is a bad tea. The same with tea that gets super bitter super quickly. In fact, one of the things that makes better quality tea better is that it actually has many different steep times and temperatures that it will be good at. It has different personalities at each of these temperatures. And this is one of the main things that I look for when choosing my teas, because I know that a lot of people who watch my videos are new, and I can't expect them to be super, super precise about their tea making. I mean, I know that a lot of people just take the tea and they throw it in a mug, and that's fine. You're gonna get good tea that way. Because it's better tea, it'll actually respond better to being treated that way than if you're doing that with less good tea. Also, I have had tea thousands of times with hundreds of Chinese people, and not a single one of them ever used a timer. So personally, I don't use a timer when making my tea, but if it enhances your experience with making the tea and it brings you into a space where you can use your skill and be precise with your experimentation as a tool to enhance your ability and find your own taste, as opposed to being stressed about like, oh, I have to do it right, go ahead, use a timer. But I don't, and I also don't freak out if we go a little bit too long with it. So like now, I'm sorry, I went on a rant. I should drink the tea. Very good. This is very good, very sweet, very bright, light, clean fragrance. This is a super easy drinking tea. One last thing about this milk oolong. You may notice the name, Alishan milk oolong, also known as Jinxuan. There's no milk in here. It's just a name that's given to this varietal of tea because it has a very rich and milky mouthfeel. Although a funny story is that because it's called milk oolong, we almost weren't able to export it out of Taiwan. It got stuck because the customs agent we were using was like, oh, there's dairy in here and you didn't declare dairy. And I'm like, no, it's just called milk oolong. There's no milk in it. Well, what if they inspect it? Well, if they inspect it, they'll see there's no dairy in it. And they're like, well, we don't want to deal with that headache, so find someone else to send it. And if you guys pre-ordered the box, you'll remember they were stuck in customs for forever. That's why. So right when we were about to send it over and we make all our pre-order customers happy, because you guys who ordered the Oolong box are the best, we had to find a new customs agent. It delayed us for weeks. Anyway, drinking tea with you guys now, it was really funny, but at the time I was like really stressed about it. So maybe a good lesson for me as a tea guy, chill out a bit, you know. And in the end, we actually did get inspected and there was no issue. So that was the end of our Taiwanese export bureaucracy. This milk oolong is an example of a 清香型 oolong, green and fragrant style oolongs. These oolongs are prized for their fresh scent and clean taste. In Taiwan, they're actually really popular right now, and people hold all these competitions to see which oolong is the brightest, the best, and the most fragrant. Lighter oolongs like Alishan milk oolong are good for people who like lighter, sweeter teas like green teas, or even the sweeter white teas like a baimudan or a silver needle. I find them to be good for all seasons. They're cool and bright in the summer, and it's kind of like a memory of spring in the winter. Taiwanese oolongs are often known for their altitude. In Taiwan, because the different altitudes teas grow at different times, tea processing masters travel down the slopes over a course of weeks or even months, assisting in the processing of preparing the crops all over the island. Jamie, whose family grows the teas that are in our Taiwan oolong box, told me this. These teas are not, however, super strong, bold, and rich. If you're looking for a replacement tea for coffee, for instance, there are much better options within the oolong world. For instance, roasting oolong started out as a preservation method. People have always known forever that unoxidized teas go bad, which means they lose fragrance and flavor over time. This is why people fight like mad for the new crop of spring green teas, because green tea is going to go brown and lose flavor with exposure to light and air. Oolongs, especially lighter, more fragrant, less oxidized versions, can also lose their potency. And since some of the issue comes from moisture remaining in the leaves, people figured out that roasting the leaves could eliminate as much of the water as possible and allow the tea to be stored for longer. Some people would wind up buying oolong that was going to eventually lose flavor, get the tea at a lower price, and then roast it so they could preserve its value and sell it later. It wasn't long though before people came to really like the nutty, roasty flavor that comes from the roasting itself. And the tea masters got better at controlling the roast to create a mellow roasting flavor that didn't overwhelm the lightness and the sweetness of the tea. A good roasted tea is one where you can taste the tea cleanly through the roast. You're not getting something that tastes burnt and heavy. Today, most roasted oolongs are made with these giant roasting machines that the tea people call refrigerators. When I was in Taiwan, I saw a bunch of these and they always seem to be running. Roasting oolong takes time since the water comes out of the leaf faster than the stem. Too hot and the leaf will burn while the stem still has moisture, meaning that you have burnt tea that is also still not good for long-term storage. That's why the machines run on long, low heat cycles and need to be constantly tended to batch after batch. Traditionally, this roasting, however, was done by charcoal. Uncle Liu, whose family grows and roasts the teas in our Taiwan oolong box, is one of the few masters left in Taiwan doing this traditional roasting method. He uses charcoal made from longan wood, which actually burns at a very consistent temperature. Lighting the longan charcoal, he then covers it with ash, which dampens and diffuses the heat. This charcoal roasting process produces teas that are better for storage. If you ran across any teas that are aged oolongs from the 1980s, for instance, or even earlier, it's almost certain that it was done from that charcoal roasting, and that's why they're still good today. The downside of the charcoal roasting is it takes time, energy, and skill, but thanks to Uncle Leo, who has all three of those, we have 2 roasted oolongs in the oolong sampler, this 2 times roasted and a 5-time roasted Dongding oolong. So let's make this 2-time roasted Dongding oolong right here. The leaves come from the farm on Dongding Mountain, which I got a chance to visit in January of 2024 when I scouted for the teas from this box. Each roasting session takes 8 hours, with the leaves being suspended in a mesh tray above the ashes with the longan coals underneath, and occasionally being mixed for even drying. In between roasts, they need to be rested somewhere between a week and a month. These rests allow water to redistribute evenly through the leaf, so the next time it's heated, it doesn't burn out one part of the leaf while the others are drying out. You can see the leaves here are darker than the Alishan milk oolong leaves, which is expected because they're roasted. Here we go. I usually also start this one out at 90 Celsius. You can actually go hotter with these because they've gone through that roasting process. The first thing you smell is this excellent roasty scent. Yeah, it's got a little bit of the charcoal in there, but it's mixed with the natural fragrance of the tea leaves. These roasted oolongs are a good mix of flavors and scents. The fragrance is kind of like a green tea, but not quite the same. The flavor is like a black tea, but also not quite the same. And all throughout, you get the roasty charcoal notes. And as you'll see here, this first steep is going to be a little bit lighter than the rest of them. But unlike what you might expect from something that's been charcoal roasted, the resulting tea is actually still very clear and very smooth. So you can take a look here at the color right there. It's going to get darker as we go along, but it's still very, very clean and clear. Here we go. Cheers. Very, very good. The curled leaves, I want to talk about this because you may have noticed them before as well. The oolongification process rolls the leaves, and then they're rolled super tight and then vacuum sealed for freshness. That means that the oolong teas are going to expand faster than a cheesy Protoss trying to drop a 12 Nexus on Lost Temple with close spawns. I can't believe I wrote that. When did I write that in that script? I don't know how many people are getting that reference, but that's how quickly it's going to expand. You want to make sure that you don't put in too many leaves, since if the leaves can't expand, not only are you wasting tea, but you're also likely to get an oversteeped bitter flavor. Take a look at how much these leaves are going to expand. This is after 1 steep. That's after 2 steeps. You see they're already getting much bigger. And by the end of the session, the entire cup is basically full of tea. I say this because I don't want you guys to waste good tea. This is a Taiwan Oolong sampler box. It's 50 bucks and you're like, oh, that's a small box for $50. It's actually because the tea is very, very compressed. A small bag of the Oolong, 50 grams of tea is going to be enough for 10 sessions. And I have some 25 gram samplers and even a 10 gram that's in here. That's going to be enough for multiple sessions. So just a little goes a long way. And if you're drinking by yourself, even 3 to 4 grams is enough. When I made the sampler, I tried really hard to make sure that people know that they shouldn't just put it all in at once. Because if you spend all the money and then you're like, hey, I just barely got any tea, and you dump half the bag in there, that would be pretty unfortunate. It's not the way that I want you making it. All of this steeping informations are in the instruction booklet. But again, I got a chance here to tell you not to do it, so I'm gonna take it. Okay, actually, this is a good chance to shit on tea bombs for a moment. And while, look, I like any equipment that encourages people to drink loose leaf tea, tea bombs, tea balls, they just don't have enough room for tea to expand in general. And for oolong, it's a really bad idea. Personally, I'd rather drink grandpa style, which is just putting it straight into the mug, or use my 2-cup method of steeping the leaves in 1 mug and then pouring into another. I would do all of that before I use a tea bomb. An infuser mug like the cat cups on my shop are also a good option, since those allow the leaves to expand. All of these are going to work better than a tea bomb, and they're not even that hard to use. Okay, back to the show. So I did mention oolongs can be good for coffee drinkers, and that's what this section is about. When oolongs are taken far into the oxidized side of the spectrum, they start to get really toasty, nuttier, dark flavors. Sometimes they can be very intense and tanniny. I'm actually going to make our 5 times roasted charcoal oolong here, and I'll show you this as an example of that. Here are the leaves, and you can see these compared to the Alishan now are completely the opposite. This is very heavily roasted, so the leaves are going to be quite dark. Here we go with our 5 times roasted charcoal dongding oolongs. You can get a lot of scent off of these leaves, even just smelling them directly. And another way that you can get really good scent out of your tea leaves is to preheat your gaiwan a little bit with some water. And if you put the boiling water in there, let it sit for just a little while, and then empty that out, you can put the tea leaves directly in. Oh, whoops, I got a couple stickers. Oh, that's good. You can then take the leaves and shake them over here, put the dry tea into the warmed vessel, and then smell that. Ooh, that's toasty. I'm getting kind of like a very like cigar smell here. Very energizing, good smell. The flavor is going to be similar to our 2 times roasted, but more roasted, obviously. Uncle Leo is actually really showing off here by showing his ability to get these leaves to have that intense roasty scent, but still have a crisp, clear taste. If it's done badly, the tea tastes burnt and ashy and not sweet and clean. So for people who are looking for a dense, heavy, dark tea, this is not really that. It's still clean and drinkable, and lighter than you might expect from something with a heavy roast, which I think is good. I've had teas that are super smoky, and honestly, it's kind of like too much. I think you want to have that scent get through the heavy roast. I even had a tea that was packed into a bamboo shoot and roasted over a smoky fire. And that smoke note just overwhelmed the entire experience. So I still am looking for balance even when I want a smokier tea. This is the first steep. It's a little bit lighter. As all of these teas open up, they kind of go from like sweeter and more crisp in the beginning to kind of richer in the middle. I like that. Yeah, definitely got the charcoal note in there. Taiwan especially has had a long history of innovating within the oolong tea scene. Taiwanese botanists and tea companies have developed many different varietals of tea leaves, and when they are distinct enough, they are given a name and a number. For instance, Taiwan number 12 is also known as Jinxuan, which is also known as milk oolong, which we had earlier in the video. The innovations don't just come from breeding the leaves themselves, they can also come from new processing techniques like red oolong. This is my Luye red oolong, which is a very innovative tea. I also steep this again at 90, but again, experiment and see what's best for you. This is really interesting because it combines aspects of an oolong and a red tea. When you store these, I actually give little bag closers in the bag in order for you guys to be able to close it off and keep as much of the oxygen out of there as possible. Again, light and air is the enemy of keeping your oolong as fresh as possible. Nice little curled leaves over here. The initial scent of this is very interesting. The initial scent is like a red tea, and it has kind of a very sweet honey-like scent and very interesting flavors in here. Let me show you. Just loving that. Very floral. It smells sweet, which is a very interesting smell, but not that sort of like heavy sugar sweet. It's kind of a more delicate sweet. Again, more like a flower or honey is kind of what I'm getting out of it. Let me steep this a little bit longer. Just pour in that first steep for you. Again, all of these teas will actually get darker as they go through the middle steeps, but because we're drinking so many of these so quickly, yeah, the smell is just really, really nice, very floral. It smells kind of, I know I say flower and honey, it smells like honey that has wildflowers in it. Very kind of light and sweet, honey, caramel kind of flavor in there. The interesting is that the aftertaste is more complex. It's almost a little bit deeper and funkier in the aftertaste than the main taste, and has a little tannic kick like you would expect from an oolong. And that makes sense when you find out the innovation here is not actually in the leaves, but in the processing technique. The tea farmers in Luye discovered that they could give the tea a day-long ferment, as you would do for a red tea, and then finish making the tea with the rest of the steps of an oolong tea. So this hybrid approach actually took research and trial and error to get right, but it makes sense for both the tea farmers and the tea customers, because the farmers in Luye were always in a bit of a challenge to sell their tea against other more famous mountains at higher elevations. And by using their still really good leaves, but creating a new product by modifying the processing technique, they made something that is different from the rest of the oolongs on there. It's a new product, and it's not really competing in the Taiwanese market with those other high mountain fragrant oolongs. And for me, that was really perfect because I can put one of these in my sampler and it's going to be different from other type of oolongs. Oolong also has oolong specific equipment. This is a fragrance cup set, and it's used as a special tea making instrument for oolong teas. You can see here, it comes with a small wide cup and a tall thin cup. Here's how it works. After you make your tea and you put it into your pitcher, the way this works is you take your already brewed tea and you put it into the tall cup. You can then put your small cup on top of this and then invert it. And then what this allows to happen is all of the fragrance in the tea is now trapped inside of this fragrance cup, and that means when you smell it, you can take a sniff and really isolate the fragrance and smell of the tea, and then you can drink the tea yourself. And this is a really good way to be able to smell the fragrance, because if you put your face over like a really hot cup of tea liquid, you will get the fragrance, but also your nose gets blasted by the heat of the liquid itself. By removing the liquid and isolating the fumes, you get more scent and less blasted in the face. This set is something I'm super proud of. When I was looking for fragrance cup sets, we found a lot of junky ones online with like some not so great bamboo boards that look like they crack and warp, and the porcelain also was kind of not that great. So we designed this one from scratch using the original art from our sampler box design, and then creating molds for our own porcelain tray. And these trays are higher quality than anything that I could find online. We have the Jessie Chaguar, Jesse's Tea House written on there with the stamp and the mountain pattern, all done in the traditional calligraphy that's used in Taiwan. I think we nailed it. It's a great addition to any oolong session. And it's a fun process so you can teach guests how to do it quickly. You can get multiple fragrance sets so that way you and your guests can both be doing it. True oolong heads will be clamoring to hear my thoughts on the dancongs, the single varietal tea plants, and yancha, which is rock tea. The truth is though, is that these are all super involved and really deserve their own video. I don't know how many minutes we're into this, but I just don't have the time to be able to go into that in this video. I am hoping to go to Wui Mountain next spring and to be able to do videos on yancha, and also find my way to the Phoenix Mountains to do dancongs. You gotta like and subscribe, because that way when those videos come out, you'll be able to see them. And I'll have more knowledge to be able to have it there with experts in the tea mountains. I'd rather do that than make a rushed version of it right now. So when I made the first part of this tea series, I expected to do all 6 tea types in one video, and after 3, I got exhausted and I realized the video was already too long. And I did the exact same thing here, thinking I would get through the other 3 tea types, but then the whole video turned out to be about oolong. But that's okay, because pu'er really does need more time, and it's very complicated. And I'm also doing more research on yellow tea. I've only had it a couple times in my life. I'm not actually a huge expert on yellow tea as of this filming. But those videos are coming. I really do hope this video is helpful for people that are learning about tea. Hopefully you can navigate the oolong world a little bit better now. If this video was a valuable part of your tea journey, please like and subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, and then also leave a comment about what types of topics you'd like to see in future Teaism videos. This is my deep dive series. Also, we have a Discord channel. The URL is going to be here, and it's also going to be in the video description. This is a super fun community of tea people. There are regional chats to be able to meet people in your area. And unlike social media, I can actually reach you there without an algorithm getting in the way of things. And then, of course, most importantly, if you want to try the teas, all of these oolongs, you can get the Jessie in Taiwan oolong sampler. It's on my website, jessie'steahouse.com. I'm also glad to say that this is on our European website, eu.jessie'steahouse.com. We finally opened our European warehouse, and the Taiwanese teas were actually the easiest ones to import. So depending on when you're watching this, there may be only Taiwanese teas on the website until we can figure out the paperwork for the mainland ones. Either way, everything that was in this video is going to be on both the American site, the EU site, and as soon as we can, our UK site. And you guys going and actually getting the tea is the best way to support me directly. You get amazing tea and amazing tea stuff, and it's everybody wins. And again, I really do appreciate the people who actually go and buy the tea. I think a lot of people think creators make money off of views. But just to give you an idea how that works, I've worked for years. I have 85 million views in the history of the YouTube channel, and I've made $12,000, which, that is a little bit of money, but I've spent many more times that on film equipment, editing help, subtitling, translations, and video effects. If you see a 20-minute video that shows up with great English subtitles that didn't happen on accident, we have to pay for that. And also people to help with the social media channels, not to mention my time and energy to actually make the content. So if people don't get tea, I lose money making these videos. So Tea Friends supporting the channel by getting the tea really is a win-win, because I can make a living as an artist and a creator, and you guys get some of the best tea in the world. And to thank you for watching to the end, you can use the code Teaism for 10% off your order on the website. You can do that on the American store or the EU store, or when it comes out, the UK store. Once again, I'm your tea guy, Jesse. Thank you so much for joining me here at the Tea House, and 多喝茶, drink more tea.